Okay, so I want to just talk about the grading rubric really quickly and to show you how you can expect your score to be graded by the TOEFL uh, guys. The TOEFL guys. Yeah, the TOEFL guys. Yeah, the TOEFL guys are going to grade it. The TOEFL test graders. Okay. So they do follow this rubric, and you can actually find this. I put a link to the rubric here, and this is the criteria to get a perfect score on a speaking task. Now there are 6 tasks. A perfect score is 4. Now it's kind of strange because if you know anything about the TOEFL, you know that the what do you know? You know that each section is worth 30 points. Each section is worth 30 points. The highest score you can get on the TOEFL is 120. But here you see that there's 6 tasks, they're worth 4 points each, that's a 24, right? So what do? After they give you the score by 24, they multiply it by 1.25, and that's how they get the score out of 30, all right? Now also one thing to think about is that even if you don't do well on one task, like let's say one task you didn't hear very well, and you don't think your speaking went great, you can still get a high score in the speaking section, even if one task doesn't go so well. So no matter what no matter what happens during the test, make sure that you do your best. Move on. Once you finish one task, move on to the next one. Don't focus on what you did wrong. Focus on what you're going to do next. All right? And that's going to be the best thing for you. So there's 4 different criteria according to the ETS website. You can find this information at www.ets.org. I wanted to kind of translate it to kind of give you a sense of, without such academic jargon, so it's easier to understand. So basically there's 4 criteria: general description, delivery, language use, and topic development. So for the first one, general description, if you want to earn a 4, basically you have to answer the question in a logical way, you don't go off topic, and you're easy to follow. So how would you do that? Well, you have an introduction, body, and conclusion. That's pretty logical. And your content is related to the question, whatever it is, and you build on the information that comes before, right? That's going to be connected to topic development as well. But basically, if something is coherent, it means that it's structured in a way that makes sense, that's logical. That, okay, so you started talking about a dog, then you gave characteristics of the dog, and then you gave an example of something the dog did, and then you gave a conclusion about why this dog was the best pet. Right. So you see that's very logical the way that it is. You start with a general introduction of the dog, you give some characteristics, you give an example of what it does, and then you tie it back to the topic, right? Okay. Delivery. You speak in a calm, cool, natural way. You don't rush too much. You're easy to understand and to follow. Some students, this is easy. Their delivery is okay. They don't have a strong accent. Other students, it's more difficult. I would if there's certain sounds you have trouble pronouncing, what I would do is that I would try to find some minimal pairs to listen to. So for example, let's say a lot of my Asian students, they have trouble with the pronunciation of R and L. So what I would do if I were you is that I would find a minimal pair, so 2 words that sound like R and L, they're very similar, but you have to pronounce each sound very differently. Or very distinctly. So for example, let's say you have the words read and lead. So you should record yourself saying those: read, lead, read, lead, read, lead. And then have a teacher or somebody else you know give you feedback. And then, or you can also hear yourself. One big thing I always say is to record yourself. I think not enough students do this. People hate their own voice. It's very natural. Get over it. Record yourself. Listen to yourself. Diagnose yourself. Work on your weaknesses and target them. That's how you're going to improve. Language use, you vary sentence structure so you don't keep it like simple. So for example, you say, I went to the movies. The movie was good. I like movies very much. It is fun to go to movies together. Besides sounding like a robot, it's very simple, right? You need to have commas. One way that sometimes your grade for your writing is part of it is from humans, but part of it is from a robot, from a kind of machine that can pick up certain patterns and grade you. Of course, a person looks at it too, and it's kind of combined with a kind of robot grader and a human. Now, how does the robot grader what does the robot grader look for to see if your writing is good or not? One thing they look for is commas. So keep that in mind for the writing section, but also for the speaking. You want to vary your sentence structure a little bit. You don't need to use difficult words really, but you just don't want to use the same kind of simple structure constantly. Okay. If you hear my examples, I don't use big, long, difficult words. You don't have to use big, long words. Don't try to use these complicated vocabulary words. Just try not to be too simple. And for number 4, topic development, is you follow the structure, you show one idea lead to another, which is what I talked about with the dog, and you have 3 transition words as well. And the transition words are just really indispensable. They're what we use to show the flow of ideas. And if you know transition words well, I think you'll succeed on the TOEFL. And it's definitely something you should think about studying more, are transition words. Okay. And that's it for the grading rubric. So this is the criteria they use to grade the independent tests.